3, 2, 1.
Boom!
Jeff, that's the wrong podcast.
Just old habit.
So, welcome everybody to RD Rentals Outdoors. You know me from my YouTube channel, and I'm starting down the road of podcasting. So today I have I consider a huge guest, especially on this channel. I don't want to build his head up because he gets to sit beside the guy who is world famous, Andy. So we all, if you listen, and we'll get to it. If you listen to their show, we know who Andy is. But I want to welcome Jeff Stanfield to my YouTube live and podcast, and he has an outfitter in Texas, and I got that pulled up on the map here. I'm gonna show that, but they got a huge lodge. Their name is huge, huge podcast, big following online. So they are now started some new adventures. We're going to talk about that and some bigger things with Boss. So here is where Jeff is. He is in Knox City. Jeff, so who are you, Jeff?
Well, I am Jeff Stanfield. I have been in the hunting business for, this will be year 31, I believe. 31 or 31. 31 years in the hunting business. Grew up in Wichita Falls, Texas, which is about 100 miles from here.
And I got that on the map here, and I was wondering about that. I was going to ask you because I'm going to come hunt with you, and I was thinking about flying in, and I wondered how far that was from you. So here's Knox City, and there's Wichita Falls. All right, continue.
100 miles away. Grew up hunting out here. Was in college. Really didn't know what I wanted to do. At first, wanted to be a doctor, but then thought that's too much schooling. Then I decided I was going to be a coach, and kids are smart asses, and I was going to school to be a coach when me and my brother started our hunting business in 1993, I believe, or 92. 92 is the first year we actually guided hunts, and this will be year 31. And we started the Big Honker Lodge, and then met my wife Michelle out here. We got married. She had 2 little boys at the time, Andy and Zach, and then we have another child, Payne, that's our son, but they're all 3 of my boys. I raised all 3 of them. And Andy and me have a podcast together called the Big Honker Podcast, and we are the largest waterfowl podcast in the world, and we're a top 10 wilderness podcast in the world at all times, just about. We fluctuate up and down a little bit, but we're not all waterfowl. We do 3 shows a week. And
3 shows a week. Wow.
3 shows a week. But anyways, Knox City, Texas is my home. I love Knox City. I was mayor in Knox City for 8 years, almost 10 years. And I was judge here for 15 years. And I'm still an out-of-towner.
Well, I always thought, just listen to the podcast to just then, I thought your father was the one that actually started. I didn't know you and your brother started it.
No.
Or your father just took y'all hunting.
We grew up hunting with my dad. My dad was a fun dad. We grew up in different times than today, of course. We grew up in the 70s. I was born in 68, so my childhood was during the 70s. And my mom and dad got divorced when I was 5 years old. But my dad was a good dad. He didn't want us to live with him by any means, and we didn't want to. We had a good mom we lived with, but my dad was a fireman in Wichita Falls and owned a painting company, and we got to hunt a lot. I mean, my dad took me and my brother hunting a bunch and taught us the love of the outdoors, and we become waterfowl hunters at an early age. And when we started the business, my dad was a fireman, and he was getting in his last couple of years. He was going to retire, and he would just come hunt with us all the time. Then when we started the lodge in Knox City and moved here full time, Dad moved here as soon as he retired as being a fireman. And he started running my pheasant hunts, and he took care of all of our pheasant hunting. So no, Dad was never an owner of the place. He thought he owned the place. He acted like he did. But matter of fact, Dad got fired probably 4 times a year. That was the relationship we had with Dad. But he was a good man, and he passed away of lung cancer about 3 years ago. 3 years ago last month.
I never started listening to the podcast when y'all talk about having him on, and at the beginning. I just picked up duck hunting 3 years ago. So I'm 43 now. So I didn't even start duck hunting until I was 40, and it's been downhill ever since. And I will never financially recover. but I love it. I love that I could take my kids. My kids want to go duck hunting. I mean, deer hunting with me, but you know how an 8-year-old is. They can't sit there quietly. Duck hunting, you can carry on conversations. You can say, "Hey, look at that bird over there." You can talk your way. Duck hunting is so much funner to me than anything. And a lot of the times with the stories you talk about your father, I'm a volunteer firefighter also. I've done 10 years. My father was a volunteer firefighter. But so all of them volunteer or the fire department stories and all the stuff that you talk about with your father. I completely understand all that. But I'm inactive at the moment because I went back to get my master's. So the past 2 years, I am almost done with my master's program. So I'll be glad to get that past me.
Well, volunteer firemen, and my dad was a professional fireman, but
Right.
volunteer fire departments across the country and professional firefighters, or whatever you want to call the difference between them, they save a lot of lives, and they don't get the respect they should because
Or pay.
most people are not up at 2 a.m. when crap happens when they're doing their
That's
job.
right.
So
And
they're
you
not.
and you and you talk a lot about when hey, your daddy was off shift and he'd hear the fire trucks and then go in. That's a lot of people don't know that. And living in South Carolina, people don't know what volunteer means. They think somebody's staying there all the time. They don't get paid for that. So I lost you there.
Yeah, I'm trying. There we go. I hit the button.
Yeah, these big cities, the big cities, them people are paid. They don't, people move from, we've got so many people moving down from New York and stuff, and they're like shocked that, nobody lives at the fire department.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
because we're at a family.
right. Well, Dad did. He lived at the fire department. He was there 24 on and 48 off. He was in a big city in Wichita Falls where they have a regular firefighter. But I've been a volunteer fireman here. I worked closely when I was mayor forever with our fire department. Our fire department has saved countless lives, just like all other little towns everywhere. The first time I was ever really, I guess what's the word I'm looking for? The first time I really noticed how important my dad's job was as a fireman was when we had a really bad tornado hit Wichita Falls when I was a kid, April 10th, 1979. We had a tornado that was equivalent to the Moore tornado, mile and a half wide, went right through the middle of town, wiped out, killed a bunch of people. I mean, it was a horrible, horrible storm. And I was 10 years old, 68, 70, 10. I was 11 years old when it happened. But my dad had to leave. We were with my dad that day. We'd been fishing and got home, and the tornado hit, and we were all at the house together. My mom, him, me, and Tony. And he left, and we didn't see my dad for like 4 days because he went to the fire department that evening, and he worked 4 days straight just trying to save people and get people out of rubble. And I realized then how important a job a fireman has. Even though I'd been around it a lot of times, I really saw firsthand then how important that job is. And we are really lucky to have firemen, volunteer, professional, whatever they are, that are there to take care of us. We're so fortunate in our country that we can call 911 and get help.
That's right. And part of that, I worked 7 years at EMS also full time, and I'm still a EMT. But them paramedics, EMTs, advanced EMTs, all of them are basically doctors out in the field, and they don't get the rap that they get that they don't get. They deserve a whole lot more too.
No, I've been to a lot of bad accidents out here. Lots of bad accidents come across in the middle of the country, and EMTs and paramedics are lifesavers, big time. Save a lot of lives. We're really fortunate to have them.
So today on the channel and podcast, I want to talk. What do you offer at the lodge? What are some hunts that y'all offer?
I'll go through it for starting September 1st when our season starts again. We'll start dove hunting. Excuse me. We do a lot of corporate dove hunts, and we do some groups of guys that are just guys together, but we start dove hunting in September. We do a weekend package where you come in on Friday, you get here at 2:00 in the afternoon. We take you to the field, we show you where to dove hunt, you come in, you have dinner that night, spend the night. Saturday you get 3 meals. You do a morning and afternoon hunt, and then Sunday morning we do breakfast to hunt, then you leave. We stay busy every weekend the first 6-7 weeks of season, and then we do have some corporate groups that are here during the week. And I've got one group that comes in on Monday and they leave on Thursday, and I've got another one that comes in on Monday and leaves on Wednesday, and then we've got one that comes in on Wednesday and leaves on Friday. So those weeks will be really busy. We'll be 5-6 days a week, and dove season is long days for us. because it starts 4:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and it ends at 11 o'clock at night because it don't get dark till 9:30. Anyways, we do dove hunts in September. Then in October, we'll start doing a little bit of pheasant hunting, and we'll do some hog hunts. And I may have a bow hunter or two in October. Then in November gets here, and we get full-fledged, and we're doing waterfowl hunting. In October, we're still running dove hunts too. But then we get into November, we do waterfowl hunting. We'll do opening weekend of duck season here, starts the last weekend in October. We have it. And then the first weekend in November, we start goose hunting, and we'll stay busy until the end of January. February gets here, we'll run wild hog hunt, or we'll do hog hunts again. Start hog hunting in February. We do deer hunts also from November and December. We do deer hunting also. We'll do pheasant hunts. We do goose, duck. Then when you get into the springtime, which is February, we'll pig hunt February and March. We'll do some turkey hunting in April. Then we basically shut down May, June, July, and August.
But on top of all that, you're still running the podcast during all of them seasons.
We do 3 shows per week during waterfowl season. The same as we do during football season. We do a football podcast every week also. So we do a pick'em contest. We do 4 podcasts a week during waterfowl season. So we'll have 4 podcasts a week during November or September through the end of December when the regular season ends. And then we'll do we do bonus stuff. And then we've got do you want me to talk about our TV shows too?
No, not yet. That's on the list, but not yet.
Okay.
So doves coming up. What's y'all's limit on doves?
We got 15 bird limit.
15. I think ours is 12.
Our
12.
White wings or mourning doves. Matter of fact, I think they're going to be banding mourning doves here today or tomorrow. I think they're going to be banding some birds here. But anyways, we do a lot of dove hunting. White wings, mourning doves, and of course we got the Eurasian doves, and that doesn't count towards your 15 bird limit, but we do have those also.
Wow, that's impressive.
And we kill a lot of doves. We got we'll get into it later. I'll tell you more about dove hunting when we talk about the TV show.
All right. So is that deal that you put out on Facebook, is it done or is it still available?
Which deal?
The opening weekend of geese.
I think we're probably sold out. I need to look at it to make sure. I might have 2 or 3 spots left. I need to look and see how many groups I'm going to run that day, but we're pretty close to being booked up on that.
Well, y'all got some excellent pricing. I mean, that special that you're running, as soon as I seen it, I showed the wife. I'm like, I've been talking about wanting to go out there. Now's my time, because with your lodge, you get a place to sleep
and your meals.
And the way y'all talk it up, she can cook some really good stuff. So I can't wait to see some of the stuff she has to eat.
Oh, Michelle's a wonderful cook. I beat anorexia by getting married to her for sure.
The way y'all talk about the sweets.
Oh,
the desserts.
She does great desserts. Bread pudding's out of this world. Trying to think of what we have. Every year there's a new thing that she comes up with that she makes that becomes another staple that we do once or twice a week, because we have the same people. We eat 7 days a week here. It's every day, all the way through hunting season. And so she tries not to ever serve the same thing twice to anyone. And most of our groups are 3-day groups. We have a lot of 2 days to 3-day groups. We'll have some that are longer, but she's got a food rotation she goes by.
How many people are going through the kitchen and then
we'll feed on an average day 30 to 40 people. Sometimes we'll have 60 people here, and sometimes we'll have 20, 25. Wow. But average probably about 30 to 40 people a day every day. This year, her bread pudding is excellent. My favorite thing she makes is redneck cake. Do you know what redneck cake is?
No.
It's yellow cake with chocolate frosting. Just simple redneck 4-people dessert. I love it. I grew up with it. It's my favorite. I call it redneck cake. But we don't have that very often. She makes a lot of specialty desserts, as I call them. She does homemade bread pudding with a homemade, or bread pudding's always homemade, but she does a bourbon glaze sauce on it, or a bourbon whiskey sauce. Then she does, this year, she did cinnamon rolls with apple pie and cinnamon rolls with a caramel sauce on top of it. And she did that probably twice a week also, did bread pudding at least twice a week. She does sopapilla cheesecake. She does a lot of homemade stuff. And I know I'm forgetting. She'll do a red velvet cake every once in a while, but her desserts are out of this world, and she does them all the time. And they're almost always homemade. She very seldom does a cake because most people just don't eat cake, but the other stuff they will eat. And
how many people fall asleep after eating all that?
Eats good. Well, that's usually at dinner time. At lunch, Every day she does homemade chocolate chip cookies, and arguably the best chocolate chip cookies in the United States. She should be sponsored by Land O'Lakes Butter. And her cookies are famous, but we do cookies every day at lunch. And then she does some different things that she makes a cheesy potatoes. They're not scallop potatoes, but they got a cheese cream sauce on them. She does that on the nights we do meatloaf, and boy, they're excellent. And she also does them chicken breast nights some. She does green beans that she puts in brown sugar, bacon. They tons of people, and cayenne pepper. People love those. They always want the recipe for those. She does a couple of different things with corn. She does a cream cheese and corn. It's like a fancy cream corn with green chilies in it. Lots of cheese. It's good. So we have a lot of stuff like that. We do steaks. We do chicken. We do pork chops. We have roast night we eat big, hearty country meals.
And on your podcast, y'all talk about the big box truck or 18-wheeler just backing up, unloading the meat and stuff. And sometimes you think, like, how big is that operation? And I mean, I haven't physically seen it yet, but just hearing, you get mental stuff in your head, like, wonder what it looks like.
Well, we bring in 2 trucks. We have 2 18-wheelers a week come in with food. Wow. I can tell you this much. Our food bill is about $10,000 a week. So,
wow.
I mean, we run to the doors.
So
food too. We're not giving you boxed macaroni and cheese. Matter of fact, when Michelle makes macaroni and cheese, what she makes up here, that was one of the things she added this year. She made some kick on macaroni and cheese that she put jalapenos and stuff in it. Boy, it was really good. And it's homemade.
It was.
It ain't no boxed powdered shit. It's real cheese. Home does the noodle, everything. It's excellent.
Wow. So I have already said I'm coming out there for that opening weekend. Tell somebody who has never been out there, what do I need to bring? What should I expect? What does somebody that's never been to the lodge, what's a new person need? I know listen to the podcast, you hate waiters, so do I bring my waiters? What tell somebody new?
If you're coming to the lodge, you've never been here, first of all, you're going to check in at Friday. You're coming in for an opening weekend, which means Friday at 4:00 is check-in. 6:00 will be dinner. We will eat dinner at 6:00. We will unlock them doors at 6:00, probably pretty much on point. We're really big on time around here, schedule-wise. If you're going to be later than an hour, you need to eat on the road because we're going to have things picked up at the kitchen. I tell guys that all the time. But we'll be in about 9:00. Well, you better eat before you get here because this place is going to be a ghost town. 9:00, everybody's asleep. The ladies are done out of the kitchen by 8:00 most nights at home. It's a long day. It's every day. So we've got a schedule we fit. So you check in at 4, dinners at 6. You can bring waiters if you want to. If it's going to rain, waiters are very important. But if it's dry like it is just a normal winter, you don't need waiters. If you want to wear them, you can, but you don't need them. That time, the first weekend in November, I have seen us have snow and it be high of 30 degrees. And when it's cold here, it's cold. It's not like you're 30 degrees up north. If it's 25 or 30 here, it's a cold 30 because the wind's blowing out of the north big time. Anyways, I've seen it 30 degrees. I've seen it 80 degrees here. We got calendar birds. The birds are going to be here. You need to bring your shotgun shells. You need to bring shooting boss, which I highly recommend. You need to bring at least 3 boxes of boss for 2 days worth of hunting because guys are not very good shots. I tell everybody to bring gloves and a face mask. First of all, I like gloves and a face mask just because it keeps the glare off your face. There ain't nothing worse than a shiny noggin out there. And guys, we're going to probably hunt in A-frame blinds, the Lucky Ducks 2x4 blinds. We're going to be hunting on Stanfield stools by Alpha Outdoors. I just got them all yesterday here. I got 30 of them here yesterday. That's what we're going to be hunting out of an A-frame 99% of the time. Sometimes we still do dig in, and sometimes we do use layout blinds, but not very often. We're most always going to be in an A-frame.
And that's a stool that y'all designed too, right?
Yes, Alpha's Outdoors. I just told them we wanted. Alpha came out with it. They just got the new and improved ones. They're very comfortable. They also got a blind caddy that goes in your A-frames. You can put a drink on it, hang your calls on it. It's a great addition to your blinds. Anyways, we'll hunt over that. We're going to be hunting over silhouettes most of the time. We hunt over dive bombs. You can hunt over your dive bombs. We're going to run spinners on the ducks, and the ducks are here. In the morning, if there's going to be ducks, it'll be the first 30 minutes. We'll shoot some ducks in the field. If not, it'll be just geese. That's basically about it. And you need to have a license, a stamp, guns, ammos. We take care of everything else. You don't need to bring any equipment, any stools, anything.
So is there anywhere local to get licensed, or do I need to do it online before?
Online is the best way to do it. You need a 5-day small game license. You need your state waterfowl endorsement. Okay. A 5-day game license is $48 unless they changed it, which the states are. They're always trying to screw you over. So I'm sure that's gone up a little bit. And no, I think the waterfowl endorsement is $12. I think it's right at $60 for your license that you need. And then you need to have your hunter safety. Just bring it with you from there. You need to have it unless you're grandfathered in like I am. I think if you're born before 72, you don't have to have your. But goddamn, my group of people are dying off left and right, so it's mostly young people.
You said something the other day on one of your podcasts. Well, it's probably been about two weeks, and Andy gave you heck about it. But yeah, it was an older gentleman, and you told him like, well, you ain't got but about 10 more dove hunts.
Yes,
and that really, when you look at it that way, that struck something with me because, as I take my kids, I might only have like 2 more duck seasons, or we take life for granted. So that when you said that put that in perspective, you don't have long on this earth.
Me and Lewis were talking. Lewis is an old friend of mine. I've been hunting with Lewis, and Lewis has been around me for 30 years. And Lewis was an old guy when I met him 30 years ago, I thought, because I was a young really wasn't that old. So I met Lewis when I was in my mid-20s, and he's in his mid-70s now. So he was 45 years old. But when you're 25, someone 45 to 50 is old fucker in your mind, Mm-hmm. I used to always kid him all the time about dove hunting. That damn, Lewis, you only got about 4 more dove seasons left, or 10 or 15. Well, when I turned 50, he called me and he's like, "Hey, just gonna let you know, you probably only got about 12." And the reality is that's true. You don't know how long you have, but I know that been in this business a long time and seen those people come through the doors. I don't have a lot of 80-year-old hunters that still hunt with me.
Right.
I've got a lot of guys that are 60 that hunt with me, and I got a lot of guys in their mid-70s. But I don't have very many hunters over the age of 80 that hunt with me. You die, And if you're fortunate enough to live past 80, if your health's good enough, then you're one of the lucky ones. And I do have some guy. I got a guy that's 90-something that hunts with me every year still. But you don't see very many of them anymore. And that is a true statement. But it is I always give him shit about it, but that is very true. You never know when it's your time, so you better make the most of it while you can.
And talking about older people hunting with you, like I said, I've only been hunting 3 years. In the past 2 years, I have been shooting boss. And I know y'all are big boss, and we're going to talk about boss. But I recently did a video on them stingers. And I heard y'all talk about stingers and talking about, some of the bosses, made for the older gentlemen. It takes the sting out. They don't kick as bad. When I got them stingers in my hand and shot them like the number 2s, I was completely blown away how bad they did not kick at all. I mean, they put down a perfect pattern without the recoil of like a 3.5-inch number 2.
When I first started shooting boss was in 2018 when we first started the podcast, and we got together with them and they sponsored the podcast and we become part of the boss family in 2018. When I first shot it the first time, I was like, this is like shooting lead from when I was a kid. Cause I grew up shooting lead shells, and my dad used to reload 6s and he called them hot 6s. And we shot them at everything and killed the shit out of everything with them. I hadn't had that same knockdown power until I started shooting boss again. And boss is like shooting lead. And you can shoot, I shoot a 28 gauge now, is mostly what I shoot all the time. I'm going to go to Canada in 2 months and hunt. I'm going to shoot a 28 gauge or 410 or 20 gauge the whole time. That's all I'll shoot. Probably will stay with 410 and 28s, but I like it because it doesn't kick real hard. If I go shoot a 12 gauge, we did some testing this fall with boss on some dove loads, and I shot some 12 gauges. One day I shot 12 gauge for a little bit. God almighty, just so much different than shooting my 28 gauge. And so Even though I was both shooting boss in both deals, and the boss doesn't kick near as bad, the 12 gauge still kicks so much more than the 28 did, or the 20. And as I get older, I don't want that. I don't want the big recoil every time. And that's one of the reasons I think a lot of the older gentlemen that I see hunt with me have switched back to 28 gauge or 20s, just because of what how much recoil it is on your shoulder, no matter what you're shooting.
And y'all have designed or not really designed, but y'all are selling some 9s now. Are they calling them the Stanfield 9s or
the Stanfield 9s? My boss, and they're going to be in a very limited capacity this year. If you want them, you need to holler at me in August to get you some. They're only going to make so many cases this year. It's first year deal. I'm sure next year there'll be a whole lot more. This year they're going to be on a limited basis. But I shot them last year, and I shot the shit out of the teal with them also. So if you're shooting upland game or you're shooting teal, I highly recommend them, and dove.
And just switching back to dove just for a second, is dove still led in Texas, or is it?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Everywhere it's led, unless you're hunting on a federal place. But don't quote me on that. But it's just a matter of time before you're going to have to shoot non-toxic shells at dove. Just a matter of time.
I tested them Stinger 7 and 8s. And boy, they just pellets everywhere. I mean, they were just, and I put it on my video. Hey, if I was forced to switch, I guarantee you I would pick up them Boss 7 and 8s, because I mean, they look like you shooting a lead shell.
This is the thing with Boss. If you ever start shooting Boss, you won't go back from it again. And some people say, well, it's the cost. Well, yeah, it does cost more, but everything costs more these days, and quality costs more. You can go out and buy you a case of cheap, and I'm not going to name any names, cheap box shells for $10 to shoot dove with. $10, $12 right now, I think, is what it costs for a box of 8s or 9s or 7s or whatever you get. But sometimes you're going to have to shoot a bird 2-3 times and knock it down. When Boss, you hit it one time, if you hit the bird, it's dead.
Right.
You ain't crappie flopping around everywhere. So what's more important, spending a few extra bucks on shells or making sure you get your game that you shoot?
You know, one thing that I've picked up on some of my YouTube skeet shooting is sticking with almost the same type shell, the same feet per second, almost the same out, and just stay consistent. Because if you're shooting something like them cheap shells that you're talking about, $10, that heck, they only shoot at like 1,100, maybe 1,200 feet per second if you're lucky. Well, you're going to be shooting, and now you're going to go shoot ducks. Now you're going to shoot in front of them or behind them. You need to stay consistent. And Boss, from one end of the shell to the other end of the shell, they're all the same feet per second.
You're going to find a hard time finding better customer service too than Boss has.
Oh, absolutely.
They have great customer service because you can talk to someone that actually knows what's going on.
And them ladies know what they're talking about too.
They do. They all know. All of them do. Everybody that works that place knows what's going on. It is just like being at a family business. With none of them being kin to each other, it's just like being at a family business. When I walk in the doors of the headquarters there, everybody's family, just like if I was at my own lodge.
You know, up till maybe a month ago, I never asked for anything from Boss. I buy my own shells. I still buy my own shells. But I was doing a video on them new war chiefs. I wanted to be like one of the first ones to get them and, you know, make videos on them. And I love the new war chiefs, and they do put down a better pattern. But I got an email one day that says, I got a Boss shipment. I'm like, Boss shipment? So I called up there. I said, hey, I think y'all might have been hacked or something. I haven't ordered anything, and I got confirmation on it. She's like, hold on. The woman answered the phone. How you doing, Mr. Reynolds? I'm like, now wait a minute. You don't even know me. Now, how'd you even get my address? I mean, they just connected the dots, and basically I had orders in the system, and they just combine them. They obviously watch, and they have a prevalence on Facebook when people are asking questions about Boss. They are on it. They know their stuff.
They're good people. Brandon have a great business.
Yeah, I greatly. That's majority of the time, unless I just run out, that's all I shoot is Boss. And there's a guy that just commented on the chat session there. I know all he uses is Boss too. He shoots to 16. He's got a Belgium, and now he's got one of them new sweet 16s. But that's all he shoots too.
It's the best there is, no doubt.
So what is some of this adventures that you and Boss are doing now?
Okay, we have a TV series we're filming right now called On the Road with Boss, hosted by Jeff and Andy, or Andy and Jeff, however you want to put it. And we started out doing some stuff, and I can't really talk about a lot of it because a lot of it won't come out until January. But we do different things. We go to an area, and we will hunt or fish. We will try to spotlight a local business that does American-made products. That's an American-made place, and we'll try to spotlight that. Then we'll go and we'll have some kind of stupid contest that we do, me and Andy, and the other one has to do something like you see off of Impractical Jokers, where you got to make the other one do something like to do uncomfortable. And we're going to be filming next week in Southern Louisiana. And it'll be me and Andy, and Dirk from Boss is with us on all the adventures so far. And then Kaylin from Boss, I think, may be coming. I don't know for sure on that. But I know Dirk is coming. And then me and Andy are going to be there, and my brother. But we're going to go fish and do whatever that I can't really talk about everything we're going to do. But we do a lot of fun things. We've done street interviews with people on the street in a big city. We've had shooting contests. We've had eating contests. We've done a lot of things. And we're going to have all 12 episodes will be out sometime next January, I believe.
I just like hearing the comments like, Andy, you gonna be holding these snakes. I ain't holding no snakes. I'm with Andy on snakes. I don't care if it's a dead snake. A dead snake is just as creepy to me as a live one. It doesn't matter if it's just a rat snake. Nope.
Oh, I'm with you. If I can do anything uncomfortable, by God, we're doing it.
I don't know whoever was last week that put that snake outside your office on Facebook, but I'm telling you, I would have lost it.
That's about 10 feet from where I'm sitting right now outside the studio doors.
So what kind of snake was that?
It was a hognose snake, and they puff her up like a cobra does. But I don't know that they've ever even bit anybody. I don't even know if they've got much. I think they got 2 teeth, maybe like fangs, but they're not an aggressive snake that bothers anybody. And Tony caught it. To be honest with you, I'd never even seen a hognose snake till last year. And we had 2 last year here, and this is the 3rd one in 30 years of being here at the lodge. It's the only 3 I've ever seen. Rattlesnakes I see every year, and I don't like snakes. And I opened that door. Tony asked me to come out there and help him. We were putting a new hot water heater in the kitchen area, and asked me to go help him carrying it in. And when I opened the freaking door, that snake was laying right there, and Ollie saw it right before I did. I saw him jump up, and then I was like, "Oh shit!" And I screamed like a little baby girl.
I know. I saw the video, and the dog just looked like it was coming out, and then looked down at it and was like, "Nope, I am backing up." And then the door slams real quick, and you hear
it scared the shit out of me. I do not like snakes at all.
I figured it wasn't too poisonous because the snake was here, and he puts his foot like right beside it to knock on the door to tell you to come out there. I'm like, that probably ain't a poisonous snake because he got so close to it.
No, I was chasing tornadoes about a month ago with a guy, and we stopped and saw a rattlesnake and was filming it because a friend Dirk had asked me from Boss. We did a tornado chasing show, and he told me like see a rattlesnake, and I see him, but if you plan to see him, you never see him. And it was like 3 days later where I saw a rattlesnake chasing, got right next to it, and guy got out and was going to kind of kick a rock to make it buzz, and somebody struck at him. Real quick. I was like, "Oh shit, they're quick."
What was he thinking?
Well, he didn't think he was 4 foot away from him, but that sucker jumped at him.
Yeah, because they can stretch out pretty good distance.
Yeah, and that was about a 4-foot snake, and it was right at the length of where it could have got to hit him. So luckily it didn't. And I was doing Facebook Live, so that would have been pretty interesting if he got bit then. Been a hell of a live. You
would have been like, I told him not to do it. I told him.
I was shocked, but when it jumped at him, I was like, oh shit. And we got in the truck and left. But anyways, I wanted to film it to show a guy that they don't buzz like they used to.
They might not have to these days.
Well,
they might be frustrated like the rest of us, just strike and be like, you all know better.
Well, they think that's because the wild hogs eat so many of them, and if they buzz, then the hogs come up and grab them and eat them. They think that's why they don't buzz as much. But you really got to piss one off to get them to buzz anymore.
That's crazy that the hogs are eating them.
They eat a lot of them.
Y'all were talking about the other day, hog hunting, and it's just crazy.
A buddy of mine's got a picture of a badger carrying a big old rattlesnake he done 2 years ago.
Really?
Him and badgers lead them too, which a badger's a mean son of a bitch.
I've only been out to Texas one time, and that was right after 9/11. Me and my best friend went out to see his father, and man, my brain went where the guy lived in the house and the ranch. What was that? Name of that town? Where the federal government went in and with the tanks and
at David Koresh at Waco.
Yes, Waco. Yeah. There we go. I knew my brain went blank. And
Waco, Texas.
Yeah, so we're going to start talking about tornadoes now. But it was sunshine outside, pretty day, twiddling our thumbs, and then sirens go off. Let's go on inside. What we going inside for? The whole sky went black. Tornado went across the front. There was tumbleweeds going everywhere, and then 5 minutes later, the sun was back out, and I'm like, "What in the world just happened?" That's just Texas. I'm like, "What in the world?"
Well, we don't have tornadoes that often, but we do have tornadoes. It's been a pretty bad spring in some places. I do chase storms. That's my favorite hobby to do. I've got to tornado chase maybe 3 times this spring. It's not been very good, but the problem is, or not the problem, I've been on the road for about 10 good chase days this year. If I go out of town, it's bad storms, bad storms. We had a real bad tornado about 80 miles west of here that killed 4 people about 3 weeks ago when I was in New York. But every time that I'm out of town, it's been storms. So I'm going to be out of town Monday through Thursday. So I'm assuming next week, Monday through Thursday, I'll have a tornado somewhere.
So what do you do during tornado chasing? Are you doing it just for videoing and, just sightseeing? Or I know listening to the podcast that you do talk to other weather people, and I know you read the maps and read the weather. Are you collecting data? Are you helping collect data? Or is it just a hobby kind of deal?
I'm very amateur. I just am fortunate enough to have a lot of freedoms where I can go when I want to go. Most times this spring has not been that way. So I get on a lot of tornadoes because I have an opportunity to go where the big boys are all the time.
Right.
I chase right along Reed Timmer and them all the time when they're in my area. I'll go all the way to Kansas, to New Mexico, and I'll go 300 or 400 miles from home. But no, I don't do any data collecting and stuff. It's real funny. We were filming in Oklahoma City this year, and we had the camera set up in a Suburban. We had cameras all over us and stuff. And I pulled up, and a highway patrol, they had the road blocked because you couldn't go down a road. And I knew that they weren't going to let me by. And I'm a good bullshitter. I usually can bullshit at my window. Highway patrol come up, road's closed. I said, "We're looking for tornadoes." He goes, "Well, there's a tornado right there, so that's what we're doing." Look, and he goes, "Oh, y'all are a film crew. Come on in." They let me go right through all the roadblocks and stuff and go right into it. So that was a benefit. I was a benefactor of being a chaser then. But I go a lot, but I don't do anything. I mean, I've helped pull people out of rubble. I've called in, but a lot of times when you're in small town America, there's not a lot of chasers around. So if you see a tornado, I've been a couple of times, even with today's technology, where I was the first person on a storm, because one time I got across the Red River and I was going to northern Oklahoma, and a thunderstorm popped up right on the other side of the river. And so we were there, and it tornadoed. And that turned out to be the only tornado storm of the day. 1,000 chasers in northern Oklahoma. Well, we were going that way, and we got on that supercell. It just happened to be in the right place at the right time, but we called it into the 911 local. And but I don't do anything that's going to benefit society other than me being nosy, and I like to chase, basically.
But you do talk about sometimes the sad side. I hear you on your podcast talk about the sad side of the tornadoes after these cities are tore up, and the smell, and not like death, but the smell of stuff just getting tore up. That
it's a great smell in the country because it's just fresh dirt.
Right. And that's what you talk about a lot.
Yeah. Plowed dirt field after a thunderstorm. That's what it smells like. It smells good, but it hits a house and stuff, and it's not so, or it hits it on a storm. One time they hit a dairy, and there's cow shit all over the road, all over vehicles. To throw up. But the sad thing is when you come over a bit, you know, I was between Oklahoma City and Tulsa on a tornado one day, and we'd come up over a rise and the tornado would be there. We'd go down the hill and you couldn't see the tornado. So I don't like chasing eastern Oklahoma because there's too many trees and hills. And you'd come up and the tornado was there and you'd go down. Well, we come up over it and we started seeing more and more debris. Then you come up and there's a house and it's got some damage done, tree down. Then the next hill you come up, the house has got a bunch of damage. The next one it's leveled and people are coming out of a cellar and stuff. And that's the reality of it is people lost their livelihood there. It's terrible. Right. I mean, I'm wanting to see a tornado, but I don't want to see nobody get hurt. You know, I was in Shawnee the day they had a tornado hit their mall. And that was I told this on another podcast recently. One of the saddest things I ever heard was a buddy of me were driving down I-40 east of Oklahoma City, going back into the city. It's the day before the big tornado at Moore. And we're coming into town and the Shawnee Mall had been hit. And I got my radio on and I can hear the chatter with the Shawnee Fire Department and Oklahoma City Fire Department. I got the channel and they say, we've got a body, and they had a body hung up in a tree, a dead body on the whatever river it is, Cimarron River, or I can't remember which river, Canadian River, I believe. And anyways, we get to it. It's in a traffic jam, and you can see they got lights on this body over there. Man, it just zaps everything. It's just horrible. That's the reality. Well, then we got about 5 or 10 minutes down the deal, and I heard them come up and say, "No, that's not a body. That's a mannequin from the mall." And that just made it a lot easier. But then the next day was the Moore tornado, and you got all those little kids died in that elementary school and stuff. And you see a tornado wipe out of town, then you go back 2 or 3 times taking trailers full of water and Clorox wipes and snacks for these people. And you go to a house, and this lady comes out of a house to me on this little cul-de-sac by this elementary. I think the elementary had winds at like 198 miles an hour or something. It was ungodly. And this lady came out, and we were giving water and food to these people, and we were going door to door making sure, because people were cleaning up their stuff. And this lady comes out, and her house doesn't have a roof on it anymore, hardly at all. I mean, it's got some roof on it, and her house, the windows are all blown out, and it's probably a $300,000 nice brick home, and got a BMW that's just crumpled up like tinfoil in the driveway. And she comes out, and she looks like she hadn't slept in 3 or 4 days. And she looked horrible. Probably 40 years old, but she looked like she was 70 all of a sudden. And I said, "Ma'am, would you like some water?" I said, "Would you like some food or something? We've got some different things here." And she goes, "Honestly, I don't even know where I'd put it." She goes, "My refrigerator's gone." She goes, "I don't have this, I don't have that." And it hurts me so bad. I mean, this lady had a great life. And then within an instant, she lost everything. And that was the reality of the thing. You know, you sit there and look at the elementary, and it's down to just bricks. I mean, it was a bad, it's a bad, you see a lot of bad things when you're tornado chasing, but you also do a lot of good, or try to, while you're there.
And you sometimes people wonder, like, why don't they just move out of there? But they can't move because that's what all they know is farming. That's all they know.
This was a nice neighborhood in the
suburbs. I know her, but
yeah, I mean, I live in the country. I choose to live in the country. If a tornado wiped my house out tonight, I'm going to rebuild back in the country. I mean, your chances of having a tornado knock out your stuff are pretty damn slim, unless you live in Moore, Oklahoma, and it seems like a tornado magnet. But most places, that's a risk. I grew up in Wichita Falls. They had 3 big tornadoes, all in a 15 span. I think there was one in 79, there was one in 64, and there was one in 50. And you're taking a chance. I mean, I'd rather live there than live in, I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't want to live on the Gulf Coast. Well, yeah, I damn sure wouldn't. But I wouldn't. If I could afford a house in the Florida Keys, I would have me a house in the Florida Keys. There's a good chance a hurricane's going to wipe out the Florida Keys. They have a chance every single year. Well, I'm not going to not live in the Florida Keys. Like you said, I damn sure ain't going to go live in Chicago. But everywhere you live, there's some kind of risk. You know, you live in California, you're going to live next to a fucking liberal. I'd much rather be somewhere else than that. But
them tornadoes, the lines that normally for the tornadoes follow, it's shifting a little bit, isn't it?
It's moved further east the last couple of years, but you know, weather's cyclical. It always has. I mean, the Ohio Valley's always had really bad. Up until recently, the tornado in Xenia, Ohio, I think in 1972 was the worst tornado to ever hit our country. And now it's shifted further west. It's weather, and weather changes every year. You know, they blame it on global warming, but the ocean, it's pretty funny. If you live by the ocean, the same ocean water line that they have now is the same one was here when the Mayflower come to America. It ain't a difference. You know, they always want to talk about the seas rising and shit. Seas ain't rose at all.
That's what we just got back from Disney, and there was a, a little ride in Epcot, and it talked about the world, and you know, my little boy's 8, and he was like pretty like watching it all, but it talked about, you know, the sand warms and the water cools, and it just talked about how pretty much the earth just takes care of itself. When it knows it's hot, it's going to cool you off, and when it's cool, it's going to start blowing hot winds from the sand to warm everything back up. I mean, it's just amazing how big this world is and how it functions.
I think in the last 100 years, I think we have actually risen a half degree. I mean, it's not. It's just what you're going to have some cold, you're going to have some hot.
That's
I mean,
right.
The panhandle of Texas is flooding right now. From Amarillo and north, they have had ungodly rains, historic rains. They had another 6 inches of rain in Canadian last night. They're flooding up there. It's been raining there for 2.5 months straight. Back when the Indians were here and the settlers tried to cross the panhandle to go to Oklahoma to pan for gold, a lot of them died of thirst, couldn't find water. And now it's flooding. I mean, it's every year's different.
So I wonder if that rain's helping any of them fires out.
No, there's no fires up there. None of the fires are up in Canada where they set them.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about in Canada. I wonder if they're getting any rain up there.
I don't know if they are or not. But I'm gonna tell you what, we were in Detroit 2 weeks ago, and it looked like the smog of Los Angeles.
See, that's what I wonder. I know maybe the fires might not be in the potholes; they're more in the woods. But animals are smart. You know, when there's a fire, animals start moving away from the fire. Wonder what it's doing, and we might not know till next year, but I wonder what it's doing to the nesting. If we walk out and be like, my God, I can't breathe in this stuff, the ducks sure ain't going to be like, well, I can't breathe in this either. So I wonder if they're moving.
I don't think it's affected the waterfowl much on water. I mean, it's not like it burns the same place for weeks or two on end. It burns
Right.
but it's going to affect the big game more than it is the waterfowl. Should be a good waterfowl hatch. We're going to have Ducks Unlimited on with us on our podcast probably in about 3 weeks and talk about the hatch. But the Dakotas are really wet, so I think that the hatch would be pretty good for us. Pintail numbers are crashing. This probably be the last year, or next year will probably be the last year we get to shoot pintails for probably 5 years.
I know, and I keep hearing you say that. And you know, if a pintail flies in South Carolina, either he got caught in a storm or he's drunk. So the chances of shooting a pintail in South Carolina is pretty slim. So I hope that is got moved up further on my list to shoot. So I hope to scratch one out this year.
Well, maybe when you're here, we will. We kill them here, and that time of year we typically are killing some. So we will see.
I hope to take that off the list. That's for sure.
We filmed with a couple of years ago, the same time frame you're coming, and we shot a bunch of pintails one day in the field. So hopefully it'll be the same way here then.
All right, that sounds good. Well, I almost had you on here for an hour. We can close out. I know. I appreciate you coming on a little bit earlier, and I had it scheduled. So if people wonder why it on YouTube and Facebook it came on a little bit earlier, I had a aunt pass away, so I want to jump off and go to her funeral. But what's new that's fixing to come out? What's going on with y'all? You already said you're going on the road, so
I'm going on the road. Me and Andy will be on the road next week filming with Boss. We're on the road with Boss. We got two other road trips lined up later in the early fall. We have season 2 of The First Family of Waterfowl, which is a show about my family and our business. And season 2 airs on July 20th on YouTube on the Big Honker podcast page. We have a Patreon account now called the Big Honker Podcast. It's $3 a month. You need to check us out. We got behind the scenes. We put 3 videos a week out. During waterfowl season, we'll have some more daily stuff we'll put out. We will go to the Big Honker Podcast there. You're certainly on YouTube. The First Family Waterfowl season 2 comes out July 20th. We have a very touching episode that we do. We do a dove hunt every year for Gold Star kids. kids whose mom or dad passed away serving our country. We do that. We have an episode on it. Will be season 2 coming out. It is a very, very good episode, and we got 12 episodes. We'll chronicle the day in the life around the Big Honker Lodge. You will see me get my ass chewed up by my wife probably more than once on that show, and you will see me chewing my guides' asses out probably more than 10 times. But we have a tight family here. We've got 12 guides that work for us full time during the winter time. We have 5 ladies that work in the kitchen all the time. We have a staff of around 20 people, and it's a family business. And we're here. The guides live on site. Other than me and Michelle and Tony and the local people that work for us, everybody else lives basically at the lodge, and they're around everybody all the time. So you can imagine what it's like being around people 24/7 for 80 days in the winter together.
You basically have to become a family, or it ain't gonna work out.
Yeah, and we're big on family stuff. We eat dinner every night as a family. Every single night, the guides and the staff, we sit down and eat together. We eat separate than clients do. They're in the dining hall. We have a big table bar in the kitchen where we all eat at. But the guides go in and sit down and talk to the customers. They go over everything they're going to do the day. Then they come back and sit with us. We let our clients eat dinner by themselves and visit with their friends while we eat and have dinner as a friend and family. And, we have the family politics and drama like everyone else does. But we're a very tight family. And I'm very fortunate with the people I have that work for me.
And I got the YouTube part pulled up on the screen here. Y'all, just like what we're doing here is live. I'm sure there's a lot of edits in y'all's, and some of the stuff you talk about gets banned a lot on YouTube. So we're not, I understand that, but the podcast that y'all do produce, you can go watch it on YouTube also, because there's sometimes when I usually put my headphones in and just listen to the podcast and crack up. But there are some times that I have to just turn the podcast off and go watch it on YouTube, because I want to see the interacting of the people. Also, somebody might be showing something, or, like, what's that decoy on Jeff's desk? Well, that goose decoy has your father's, ashes in it. And, sometimes just hearing, you can't see that. So just throwing that out there, y'all's podcasts are also on YouTube.
Yeah, and our YouTube growing like crazy. We have it on Spotify, on iTunes. It's on all the podcast downloads, and then it's also on YouTube. And my dad's ashes are sitting there. I've got the decoy in front of me is a decoy that Trevor Shanahan World Championship goose calling deal. That's the one's in front of me. My dad's is over by Andy, but I'm having a shelf built right now. Harry, that worked for us, one of my best friends in the whole world, just passed away from cancer. He had cancer, and 3 weeks later was gone. That's been a big blow to me personally. He's a great friend, but anyways, Harry was a big part of the lodge and stuff. But I'm getting a decoy. My friend Corey at Cedar Run is making me a decoy for him, and then Ed, that worked here for a couple of years, for 3 years, he passed away 2 years ago. And I got his sister sent me his ashes. And so I'm going to have a death row. I'm going to have my dad on a deal in here. And that's where I'm going to keep him at. And then
that's something big though.
Yes.
Dying is tough. It's going to happen to all of us, but that's something you can remember somebody off of. And, I tell my wife, and I also didn't know it till, I don't know, 2 years ago, back probably I heard it from y'all's podcast. Y'all put your dad's ashes in Boss, and Boss does that. And Boss, you send them the ashes, they will put the ashes in the shell, and you got your name on there. And since then, I told my wife, I said, heck, if I'm still hunting, that's what I want you to do. I want you to do that with some of my ashes, and have my buddies or have my son or daughter, whenever they go hunting, take me along with it. It's not for me, because I'm going to be dead and I'm going to be in heaven in glorious time. But it's for them to remember, because when somebody dies a year from now, most of the time you forget. You say you ain't going to forget about them, but life is so busy. That is something Boss allows for memories.
Yep. We have got 10 cases of my dad, and I've given away probably 50 people that hunted with dad that have known dad will come through here, and I'll give them a couple of shells. And I tell you what, I've seen more grown men cry in my office over me giving them shells Because my dad suffered for 6 months with cancer. He fought for 5 years. The last 6 months was miserable. I was happy when he passed away. I know that absolutely horrible, but I was relieved for him. I was so happy. Same with Harry. When Harry passed away, I was so happy for Harry. I was sad because it was only 3 weeks, but I was happy for Harry because I was sitting there. He was miserable. Same with Dad. So they get all upset, and I'm like, I was happy Dad passed away. I did my grieving before he passed away, but it's very touching when you see grown men that you've known for a long time get really teary-eyed when you give them a couple of shells. And then guys like, I'm never going to shoot this. I want to put it on. I said, no, Dad would want you to shoot it, you know?
I love hearing Andy be like, man, Ron ain't going to fly with all that weight in that shell.
But Dad had a great life. We were very blessed. Dad was very blessed. I've been blessed. Gosh almighty. Grew up poor, didn't have nothing my whole life other than getting to spend time with family and do things. I was very blessed growing up that way. I was not poor then, but I didn't grow up with a lot of money. But my life is so much better than how I grew up. But I've been for 30 years, I've got to make a living doing basically what I like to do.
And I've said on this episode, I said a dozen times, I listen to y'all's podcast, but you say stuff sometimes, and I don't know if you ever know that anybody even probably listens. I mean, obviously I know people listen, but there's stuff that you say sometimes that hits me, and it's like, he's got a point on that. So
would you tell that to my wife, please?
No.
I'm a very hated guy, and I talk a lot, and I got a platform. It used to be Facebook, now it's a podcast. But
right, and you
thought people like they do.
And you say all the time, and then that's what I tell people. I've been on other, live stuff with other people, and I always say, well, Jeff from the podcast says the hunting community is a small group of people. And,
yes.
Since I've started my YouTube channel, and I'm not even nowhere, I'm not even saying, hey, I'm trying to be like the podcast, because y'all in a whole separate world. I mean, not world, but a whole different country than I am. And I'm trying to show South Carolina, but it is crazy the people that you meet and the people that follow you, and the support wise,
yes,
is unbelievable.
The waterfowl business is unlike any other business out there. I have people that I used to know about every outfitter in Texas. It's a waterfowl outfitter. Now there's thousands because they come out of the woodwork every year. But the guys that have been in the game a long time, I know them, most of them personal. Not friends with all of them, but I know them personally. I've got 2 outfitters that I'm really good friends with, and I get along with most of them. I don't have any that I don't get along with. But deer hunting, there's 10,000 deer hunters in Texas outfitting operations. I have no idea who they are. But the waterfowl business is so unique, and it's a fraternity. And I'll tell you who was really good for the waterfowl business, and I'm going to get to a lot. Serious waterfowl hunters are not going to like this, but it's Phil Robertson. When they did duck hunting, they got kids and families involved in duck hunting that didn't know nothing about duck hunting. They went out and bought a couple of dozen decoys. And one of the really cool things about duck hunting is you can go with an outfitter and you can spend a ton of money. You can spend a lot of money. You can spend a little money, depending on what outfitter you go with. Or you can hunt on your own for free, because there's public lakes everywhere that has hunting allowed. You can't do that with deer hunting. I mean, you can go public deer hunting, but not every place is set up to really have a chance to shoot a deer. You can go duck hunt and have a chance to shoot ducks on public all over the United States. And you can do it cheaply. You don't have to, like in Texas, if you want to be on a good deer leash, you're going to spend $5,000 to $10,000 a person. Well, you can go to Matagorda Bay on the coast and hunt for free. You can go to a lot of lakes in Texas and duck hunt for free. You might have to buy you a boat, and you might have to buy you some decoys. You're going to have to buy some decoys. But after 1 year, that's paid for. The next year, you're basically just spending for your fuel and time.
Right.
And
I don't.
This is unique about.
I don't think you can see the chat on your side, but Daddy Duck is another YouTuber in South Carolina. He's more towards Santee, part of South Carolina, and he agreed with you. He said, I've hunted with them, and them were some great guys. And I agree with you. Duck hunting is not easy to get started. There's just so many rules. You can't shoot this bird. You can shoot this bird. It takes you really need to be with somebody to learn. And what they showed on that TV show did get people interested. But we need to do a better job bringing younger kids in. Well, them 18-year-olds are nothing but sky blasting, and well,
Yeah. But they're hunting.
3 years ago, I didn't know that I couldn't shoot them 70 yards out either. But
No,
I would just.
They need education, but
That's right.
My business is different. My deal is different than most guys because everything we hunt is private here. Everything's private, so we don't have to deal with a lot of that. But I see guys complaining all the time. A single hunter. Well, I was gonna go there, and this other guy's single. He there for. You know what? Go shake his hand, talk to him. Maybe be a friend with someone because you have something in common. You've got waterfowl hunting in common, and if you walk in an attorney's office and he's got duck hunting pictures on there, you have something in common with him.
That's right. And what I run into a lot is I hunt most of the time by myself. So like if I want to go to a guide or something, I'm going to be like, well, I'm going to go hunting with you. How many people you got? It's just me. Well, we're going to need like 3 or 4. But at least with you put it out there. Hey, you're going to be with 7 other people that you probably ain't going to know. But like what you said, we all got one thing in common. We like to hunt.
Yeah, we do a lot of. I put that podcast has given us the availability to do that. I can put something on one of our pages and say, "Hey, I've got 2 days." For some reason, I'm not booked up yet on the days. I'm going to tell you why this opening weekend was open. I didn't book anybody at all because I did not trust our state on the season, so I hadn't jacked with it at all. I'm sold out from Monday on, but that opening weekend I wasn't, so I ran a special. Well, everybody that's coming on that hunt is either 1 to 4 people. And I'm going to have 25 people at the lodge that day of 1 to 4s. And you know what? Next year, we can hunt that same opening weekend, and I can have probably 80% of the same people be here, and they will have been friends with those people. Because we started a hunt called the Rumble in the Stubble was a hunt. It was a podcast hunt 3 years ago. And I still have the same nucleus of guys, but now they all hunt together. There's like 12 of them guys, and they all were 1s and 2s, and now they all hunt together. Because and it's like that the whole time I'm here. I have certain days that I gel small groups together because there's a lot of guys out there that either are single or just 2 guys and they want to go hunt somewhere, but everybody requires 8 people for a private group.
And like I said earlier, like you said, I mean, it's just a small community. I mean, just what little bit I've been on YouTube, I mean, it's unbelievable. People are just like, hey, I'm in this state, come hunt with me.
Yeah,
come on.
They all have the same interest, but
that's right.
You can put 1s and 2s together, but as an outfitter, it's tough if you don't give very many calls.
Right.
The outfitter is not getting 5, 6, 7 calls a day. You know, they get 1 or 2 calls a week, maybe. Well, if you book for 2 people and you're running a 1-man operation and you book 2 people on a Friday and you don't want to take a chance someone else is going to call, want to book 10 people for a private group. Well, I can't do it because I've got 2 people booked. And that's an advantage that me and, there's a lot of outfitters out there do the same thing, but they get enough calls that they can put 2s and 3s together. And my guides like the small groups that are put together almost better than the big groups because the tips are better always.
Well, that probably makes more sense.
Oh,
I always like to hear you like our books are always open. You want to book in 2042?
Yeah, that cracks me up. The guys, books are open. Your books have been open all freaking year long. Yeah. I've never anybody. I don't give a shit what outfitter you are. If you call him up and you want to book, now I have days during dove season that my weekends are booked up because I have same corporate groups come every year, and I'm not going to knock them out to put in. So I'm not going to do. But it's dove season. But waterfowl hunts, unless someone books the whole 2 or 3 days every year, I don't have anybody bringing 40 people. I have some groups that bring 20, but so there's other spots available. So yeah, if you call me up and you want to book 3 years down the road for opening weekend of goose season, you got a group, I'll book you.
All right. So I appreciate you coming on. I greatly appreciate the conversations we have throughout the past couple of years. I mean, we chit chat on different stuff, but I enjoy y'all's podcast, and I appreciate you coming on. Is there a way for somebody to contact you? How do they get in touch with y'all?
Well, you can look us up on the web at stanfieldhunting.com. If you want to see the actual stuff goes on around the lodge, you can look us up on YouTube at the Big Honker Podcast, or you can go to Patreon and you can look up Big Honker Podcast. It's $3 a month, and you get behind the scenes. We do a giveaway. We're fixing to do a giveaway on a puppy and a bunch of stuff to go with it. So that's going to be a hell. It's going to be about $5,000 package that we're going to do a giveaway on our Patreon account. Anyways, or you can go on our website, stanfieldhunting.com, or you can call the lodge 940-658-3172. And yes, Jeff answers the phone. I don't think anybody else here even knows how to answer a phone but me. So I will answer the phone. If I'm not in, leave a message and I will call you back. Or you can email me at goose@westex.net.
And that's a true thing, because I booked the hunt and you answered it went to voicemail, and you sent me a text, said, "Hey, I'll call you back on the podcast." And as soon as you got done, you called me back. I paid for my trip, and I can't wait. November will be here before we know it.
If you want to come see me in person or visit with me, not like that's a big deal, but if you do, I will be at Delta Waterfowl the last weekend in July in Little Rock, Arkansas, with the boss people. Andy and me and Michelle will be at Delta. Andy and Jesse will be at Squad Fest in St. Louis with Die Bomb at the boss booth. Come by and say hi to us. Go by and see our sponsors. We'll be around there. And then I will be I think I'm going to be in Oshkosh, Wisconsin last weekend in August with Boss at a waterfowl festival of some sort. And I can't remember the name of it.
Man, you're going to be burning the road up, ain't you?
I'm going to be ready for November to get here. Waterfowl season. And I'll be home for 3 months straight. I have been on the road all year, all off season. It's been go. And I'm not complaining. I love my life, but I am going to be ready for some slowdown probably in November.
And not that they have to go backtrack a good bit while talking about on the road. After hunts, you get in the vehicle and then go scout for the next days.
Well, I don't guide.
You don't guide, but you help you're just not sitting there. You're helping the guides out.
I hunted probably 5 times this year, which is 5 times more than I did the year before, probably. But I will teal hunt some during teal season, and I'm going to get to do some hunting in October and September. We're going to go to some different places and hunt. But once hunting season gets here, I'll go get in the blind for 30 minutes. But as soon as that first 30 minutes is up, I got to get on the road and scout for the next day. But yes, I scout every morning and I scout every night. I usually scout by myself in the mornings, unless somebody wants to ride along with me. I've got friends that'll call or, hey, and I want to come down and ride around with you. I'll go scout. They'll hunt, get done hunting, wake up the next or go do my stuff in the office. Then usually we have the guides. We meet at 4:00 every day, and if they're at 4:02, they're driving themselves. At 4:00 we're leaving. We scout. We figure out what we're doing. We usually pretty much know where we're going from my scouting in the morning ahead. But yeah, I scout morning and afternoon. I'm very involved, but I don't hunt much anymore.
Yeah, it's an amazing operation, and it takes a lot of key things to keep all that going. And I have to say,
it's organized mess.
Organized chaos.
Yes, all the time. I mean, for the guy that hunts by himself, he's got the hardest. A guy that's a solo guide that's hunting on his own, that scouts and hunts on his own, he's got the hardest job. I'm not jealous of them guys at all. But I've got lots of friends that have an operation. They hunt 6-8 people a day in one group a day. We're running 3 groups, 4 groups a day. We're feeding 40, 50 people a day. Sometimes you got ladies coming in, you got maids, you got kitchen work. All the meals done. You got someone cleaning birds. You got to check people in, check people out, scout. I mean, I wouldn't change anything to it, but it's a lot busier than a lot of people realize. I think there's a lot more goes on than the average person sees.
I can believe it. But with that new video series, it's showing the back end of what actually goes on and what y'all do. So it is shining a light into what the background, and you're allowing people for like me that has never been there to see it also.
Well, I'm going to give a disclaimer before episode 1 of the First Family season 2 comes out July 20th. You're going to see some steaks we're cooking on the grill, and I was not real happy because we do bulk ribeyes, and they were supposed to cut 5 bulk ribeyes up at 1 inch thick, and they cut them at about less than a 1/2 inch, and I was not happy. But when we opened them up to start seasoning them, it was about 3 hours till we got to grill them, and I couldn't get anyone. So when you see the thin steaks, that is not a normal steak we cook. By episode 2, 3, or 4, you'll see our normal steaks, I'm sure. I hadn't seen none of the footages from those episodes, but when the steaks were there, I told Michelle, I said, "Ooh, it looks like we're tight asses on those expensive steaks." The guys cut them wrong. I was not real happy.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Anything else you want to add before we
Nope. Come out and see me at Delta. Come out. Love to meet you, talk to you, shake your hand, visit with you. If not, maybe I'll see you on the road. We'll be either in the Boss bus or the Sprinter van, probably somewhere.
And y'all going to be, you didn't rightly say where you're going, but it's going to be a lot of East Coast stuff, right?
We're going to be in the swamps in July. I think in September we're going to be either with our friends from the land of maple leafs, or we're going to be on the northeast coast somewhere, and maybe upstate New York or somewhere. I'm working on a couple of deals right now to figure out exactly what we're going to do.
Right. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
You bet.
Appreciate your time.
God bless you. Wish you the best. I'm really sorry to hear about your aunt's funerals. Are no fun. We're all going to end up having one day.
Absolutely. Unless he comes back before we get it there. So
I'm going to be awful nervous if I wake up and all my neighbors are gone and I'm still here.
Well,
it done a little better.
Yeah, I know what you mean. All right, man. I appreciate it.
God bless you, and I'll see you in November.
Sounds good, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye.